My people are high performance people. They usually come to the work through stress and they're sick of it. They're not sleeping, they're stressed out, and they still want better performance.
If you want to be a peak performer, you've got to retrain the brain so that in those peak performance moments you can be peak, and then when you need recovery, you can recover just like that. Your brain is also the most powerful pharmacy on earth. What if you could have digital coffee? You actually get to go into the kitchen of your mind, create the cocktail you need for that moment to stimulate you to take action in the right direction.
Dr. Porter, thank you. Thank you for taking the time today. And so I want to know more about this mission to build 1 billion better brains. How did you come up with that?
My wife and I sat down and said, we want to help 1 million people. Then we sold 3 million of our products and we said, that's too low. I mean, that was easy. So I said, we got to have something that's so big that people will think, what? And so we said, we want to better 1 billion brains, because when you change, let's say you change your life, you're going to change your family. And that's what my mother did. She went and got help through iridology, actually, through nutrition. Got all those kids off sugar and dyes and things. And then my dad got help through something called the Silva method. So the family started changing. And now look, I'm out here helping people, teaching doctors, educators, sports people, whatever. So I think as we change the world, there's a consciousness that we all tap into. And they actually call it the Maharishi effect, because they've done studies where they show people in prayer can actually change the environment of like chaotic cities like Washington, D.C. So I think that if we have to do this for the whole world.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time in yoga retreats with that change in the state. And so my people are high performance people. They usually come to the work through stress and they're sick of it. They're not sleeping, they're stressed out, and they still want better performance. So what do you say to those people? How do they get started?
Well, I think the main thing is that you don't have to have a breakdown to have a breakthrough. So most people think they got to push. We're the go for it every minute of the day, do everything you can, take no time off. The reality is that we need recovery. Einstein said it best when he said, you can't solve a problem on the same level it was created. You have to go to the solution state, then return with the solution in mind. That's really what BrainTap does. So when you think about a better brain, when we're walking around here, we have a problem, you can focus on the problem, and that's okay. But eventually you got to start focusing on the solution and then start thinking further down the timeline. We can be in this moment, but in this moment, we're planning our next moment. So I think with a better brain, when you start seeing, we like to call it like the ancient masters used to say, look at the world through 360 degrees. What is your actions doing today, tomorrow, yesterday, with your family, your friends, your community? But you can focus on yourself. And the nice thing is that we don't have time. So that's why I created the technology, right? Technology has kind of got us in trouble. I remember when I first got my first fax machine, I thought this was the greatest thing on earth. Then I get a text messaging machine, right? The little pagers. And now we got cell phones. Now I don't get to lock my office door, leave for the weekend. People can't get a hold of me, right? So with these high achievers, now you're 24 hours on. We work around the world. So people in India are calling, people in Brazil, people in China, whatever. Everything's happening now. So you got to take time to step out of this. And the nice thing about the brain is that we can have that, we can compress that into smaller time periods to get a maximum benefit. And that's really what we're talking about. If you want to be a peak performer, you've got to retrain the brain so that in those peak performance moments, you can be peak. And then when you need recovery, you can recover just like that.
Yeah, so that's what I want to know more about. Like how do you see BrainTap specifically tapping into that active recovery?
Well, in the morning, it's not uncommon to wake up in the morning, you have anxiety or stress, maybe you have a big meeting, you have a big proposal, you have to put together a plan, or you've got a problem you didn't have the solution for. You wake up in the morning, you have that kind of feeling. That's the time that you really need to settle. And when you settle, you start to put to work this 100 billion neural bit processor called the human brain. And once the human brain, now the consciousness part of the brain, the mind, is what needs to work. But if you're in stress, it's almost like you're locking out. So let's say you have a radio and you're listening to 99.9, but the solution's over on 103.4. You have to turn the dial to 103.4. That's the active part of it. So that's why in the morning it's so important to engage a brain we call SMR. A lot of people do this by drinking coffee and stimulating the exercise. Those are all good things. But the reality is that your brain is also the most powerful pharmacy on earth. What if you could have digital coffee? That's what I call SMR.
Love that.
So it will create norepinephrine, dopamine, and cortisol. These are the things your body needs. So think about it like you actually get to go into the kitchen of your mind, create the cocktail you need for that moment to stimulate you to take action in the right direction. And that's the morning. Now, in the middle of the day, most peak performers, they feel a dip. Well, they're not the only ones. They just notice it. that dip is natural because our bodies are going through cycles, just like we go around the sun and our solar system goes around the universe. Everything is cyclic. So in the afternoon, our bodies drop in temperature 2 degrees.
Yeah.
That's because we're designed to take a nap.
Yes.
It wasn't too long ago we were running around the Serengeti. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, no one is, chasing lions and zebras and things. They're taking naps in the shade. Now, we don't have time to do that, right? We don't have 4 hours. We got a busy day, busy schedule. So we have sessions that trigger the brainwave called theta and gamma, depending upon what you want to do. These trigger something called GABA. GABA works with BDNF to create this neuroplasticity that we need. So if you're a peak performer, you really want to engage in that. And this gives you a thing. And when we did our study with Googlers and Microsoft users with Julie Arndt, we showed a 26% production, like their work product. They produced 26% more when they took a 20-minute break in the afternoon. So imagine that. It was hard for us to convince them at first.
Yes.
But once they started doing it and realized that when you're on, like in the morning, you get more work done. If you can reboot that and do it in the afternoon. And then, of course, for the peak performers, how do you shut it off? If you're one of these creative geniuses and you're always thinking and problem solving, then you go to bed and all of a sudden, boom, all these ideas come in. You need a way to down-regulate that brain.
Right.
So we have sessions for creating what we call deep delta sleep. And that's really important for peak performers to know, because when you think about your brain, the only time your brain will detoxify is during level 4 sleep. Mm-hmm. So that's why they have all these sleep metrics. What are your sleep scores? And what we showed in our sleep study in Australia was these people were in bed 10 hours a day before the study, but they only got 1 minute of deep sleep. They had the worst sleep scores you'd ever see, but they were in bed for 10 hours. So people have this misconception. Just because you're in bed doesn't mean you're sleeping. So when you think about active sleeping and productive sleeping, we need to get you to delta as quickly as possible, go through the cycles so you reach that level 4 sleep, so this part of the brain called the glial lymphatic system can open up and cleanse the brain. Mm-hmm. Now what happens is the spinal fluid will come up through the spine and wash over the brain. Mm-hmm. And then those glia cells, these are the cells that combine and make relationships. Right. So think like you're going to a networking meeting every night when you go to sleep. I love that. In the brain will start these networks. Now you compartmentalize everything you learned during the day. What do you want to do in the future? All of these things are now being used in your dream state when you really have the activity. Now, you might have some pretty bizarre dreams, but now you'll start to focus those dreams. You'll start to realize, hey, I can use dream time to be a time to maximize my goals, set priorities, have conversations, rehearse. Could you imagine going to a movie and none of the actors and actresses rehearsed? That'd be pretty crazy, right? Right. So what we're talking about is we need to rehearse our own life. Yeah. And we do that one day at a time. And when we do that one day at a time, the unconscious, or this other than conscious mind, like I used to call it. Yeah, I hear it in my head. So it will start to predict the future for you. Yeah. And it's been said, the best way to predict the future is to create it. Mm-hmm. There's no preset way, but if you know it, what they call it in science, in the new book that it's coming out in October called Brain Fitness, we talk about priming. Mm-hmm. You need to prime the brain, just like an old pump. How much water do you need to put in that pump to prime it? Your brain needs to be primed so that you can think, act, and respond in the way that you want to think, act, and respond. Don't let your past dictate your present or future. And that's what we're talking about here. So when you think about BrainTap, the problem is people won't take the time, and they think when they're just sitting there relaxing, their old thinking comes in. Yeah. So just like if I had my computer that first came out, which I thought, when we bought our first computer, by the way, we paid like $2,800 for it. The guy told us it's the last computer you're ever going to need. It has a 20 whatever megabyte hard drive. You could type the rest of your life and never fill it up. I mean, I have more than my thumb drive in my pocket, in there. But so technology's changing, evolving. So is our mindset. So is our life. So we need to keep up with that. And I think that BrainTap is a way to upgrade your mindset. So we don't have to go to Microsoft or Apple or Google. You have your own internal metrics that you can measure that by. So let's upgrade your thinking. Let's get you going in the right direction.
Yeah, and most of my people come in through sleep, like they're not sleeping at all, and they're stressed out of their minds, and they're not really thinking about that. What is that next thing? They just know that it's out there somewhere. So what do you say about how do they choose what to engage in using this brain?
Well, first of all, you got to improve your sleep. Yeah. So think of sleep as your time to incubate your superpowers. Yeah. We've all had that morning where we woke up really well and we felt like we could conquer anything. Something happened, a little problem happens, we just handle it. So that needs to be every day. So I believe that having you don't have to have a sleep routine as much, but of course a dark room helps and all the things they talk about help, but we need to get our brain trained so that we drop off that, what we call the beta brain.
Yeah.
Leave the beta brain here. We need that here to react, and do these things. But what we really need is to engage more of our alpha and theta in our other than conscious mind during our dream states. And so sleep is the number one thing to fix. Once you fix that, now you start looking at what's my sleep routine? Mm-hmm. Am I waking up with energy? Am I using stimulants? Do I need coffee first thing in the morning? And I tell people, if you need coffee first thing in the morning, you have a neurological problem. You just slept all night long. You can enjoy coffee. I recommend you drink your coffee 2 to 3 hours after awakening.
Yeah.
That way your brain, because your brain's very lazy. I mean, it does a lot of work. It's, it weighs about 4 to 5 pounds, but it uses 20% of all the energy resources of the body. So if you stimulate it with coffee, obviously it's going to say, thanks for the help.
Right.
And it doesn't work on itself.
Yeah.
So get your brain working and maybe do some exercise. That creates that BDNF we were talking about earlier. And that BDNF is part of the neuroplasticity, part of the change. So as we age, they say people get fixed. So that's why we have to fight against our nature. We always try to do things the same way every time. Even when they're not working, we do the same thing. They call these things habits. But habits are simply rituals that we've designed in our life. Some work, you don't want to get rid of them. But those rituals that you're doing every day that aren't working, those are the things you start focusing on. And that's what you do in the middle of the day. You pick on those things. What are the rituals that you're doing during your day that you want to change? Like, is it your conversation with your family? Is it with your friends? Is it with your coworkers? Is it with yourself? I mean, are you beating yourself up every day? And there's a saying that I love, Rod Hairston out of Austin here that we're at right now. He's a great trainer. And he has a saying, there is no there. You're never fixed. Like if you're looking for a finish line here, there's milestones, but you're never, it's like having a business. Are you ever really done? Until 8 billion people have BrainTap, I'm not done. And by that time, there'll be 9 billion. So you're never going to be done. And then we have to go to other planets, right?
Yeah,
or whatever.
Right, exactly.
So here we go. It's an ever-expanding consciousness, an ever-expanding universe that we live in.
Yeah. And so to create that decision to engage, if for all those time-starved people, what advice do you give them? Like, how do they put it in their day?
Well, one thing is that you have to, like, for instance, what we tell people is, if you use an alarm clock, which I don't recommend using alarm clocks, but if you do, set that alarm to some beautiful music and set it 10 minutes earlier than you usually would. So if you have to get up at 6 o'clock, 5:50, do your BrainTap session right then. Because you're going to get in that 10 minutes, you're going to get equivalent of 4 hours sleep. So if you didn't get the right sleep cycles, now at least you're waking your brain up. So that took no time.
Yeah.
And you used your time efficiently. All you have to do is reach over, press play. You can put the headset on or not. Yeah. And you can do the session. In the middle of the day, you're not getting enough work done anywhere. That's what we proved to Google. You think you're doing work. Just because you're in motion doesn't mean you're working.
Right. Just because you're checking your email does not mean you're working.
Right. So what we tell people is that's your time. Just like when you're on the airplane, before you take off, they say there's going to mask come down if there's an emergency. You put on your mask first before you put. Everybody else is running around putting everybody else's mask on. You got to put your own mask on. So that's how you get focused. If you came to my office between 2 and 3 o'clock, I'm going to be in my chair doing my session. Yeah. And that's because I have stress too, but I don't let it affect me the way it affects other people. Yeah. And then at night, you don't have any time at all. Just whenever you go to bed, that's when you do your BrainTap session. So it takes no time to do this brain training. Yeah. Now, what you do in the middle of that is really important. Exactly. Because there's a saying that knowledge is power. That's not really true because we all have the internet in our pocket, right? Yeah. We have all the knowledge that's known to mankind in the internet, but we need to know how to search it. We need to know how to find it. We need to have the time to do it. The reality is knowledge applied is power. That's what these times do because we get what we rehearse in life, not what we intend. Exactly. So intention is good, but rehearsal is where it's at. Yeah, and action is even better. Right. So, when I got in trouble when I was younger, before all of this, my dad got help, and he had me read a book called As a Man Thinketh. I had to read that every day before I went out and played in the summer. It changed my mindset because it got me thinking, how am I thinking today? What is my thinking doing? If something's going wrong in your life, it's not about them. It's about you. Yeah. Because there's billions of people out there, and you can't change all of them. But you can change the one common denominator, you. So if you start focusing on you, you'll make the time for this. Yeah. Because you're the priority. Yeah. Who's the biggest asset in your life, in your business? It's you. And the biggest asset of you is your brain.
Yeah, it's either the asset or the bottleneck.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, who wants to live to be 150 with no brain? You know, like the biggest fear in the world today is not fear of public speaking anymore.
Yeah.
It's a fear of losing your brain, right? Losing your memories, losing your consciousness, losing your ability to function on your own. Well, that starts today. You know, if you're listening this far, this starts today.
Yeah.
Because you can't say you don't know anymore.
Yeah.
There is a solution, and we've proven it in science. It's not like we're just not making this stuff up. We prove it every day in our lab. We prove it every day in our clinics. We have 3,000 clinics in America doing it and growing by 30 to 40 new clinics every month.
Cool. So
it's growing, and if you've heard about it now, while your neighbor might not have. So this is a time for you to upgrade your thinking, upgrade your brain, upgrade your life.
Yeah, yeah. And so what are you most excited about? Where's BrainTap going? What's next?
I think the main thing is that we're getting more into school systems. Because for me, my first book, I've written 10 now with this new one coming out. My first book, Awaken the Genius, was my journey and how my dad helped me to become I was held back in second grade. I was told I wasn't that smart. I wasn't really that good. I wasn't really, here I am with a PhD and all this research and everything we're doing because I activated my brain at an early age. There's no time like today. So if we can get our youth starting to realize that their brain is very important, and some of the things we do, I was brought up Catholic, so some of the programming wasn't so good. We always told what not to do, and of course, when you tell me what not to do, I'm going to go do it.
Exactly.
I mean, not all those things on that list, but a lot of those things on that list. So we want to get people focused on the positive. And the negative's going to be there. We got to handle it, but we don't give energy to it. We just give solutions to it, and we focus on what we can do. Almost like in AA, where they say, change the things you can and embrace those things you don't have a choice of.
Yeah, change your playmates and playgrounds.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, so what's your new playground?
Well, we're in India now. We're moving into India, so those billion brains are within reach.
Cool.
For sure. I mean, we can get 300 million here in America, but there's a billion in India. And so we're just launching there, and I think that as people around the world, we're in Brazil, we're in 106 countries. So, and I think just finding the right people like yourself. I mean, we need people like you that share the word, because I'm only one person.
Yeah.
And the way this spreads and goes global is you tell your friends, your family members, your coworkers, because they see the results in you, not just because you're selling a product.
Yeah.
I mean, if I could do this for free, I would, but the Pope doesn't send me a stipend, so I have to charge for it.
Yeah. Yeah, and then my people are interested in high performance in general. So I know you're getting into sports.
Yes.
Tell me a little more about that.
Yeah, well, we partnered with TBRX, and we partnered also with the Swiss Performance Institute out of Switzerland. They have 40,000 Olympic athletes on. Oh. So we're working with them, because in sport, you could have 5 people there. They all have the same physical gifts, abilities. But I'm going to tell you, the one with the mindset is going to win. Yeah. The one that thinks they can, the one that's put in the mindset, a diamond is made out of a coal that has supreme pressure on it. So stress is a good thing. Yeah. Stress, I have to remind my wife of this all the time. You say, when you're stressed, you're building new neural pathways. These new neural pathways, if you nurture them and use them for what they are, they're going to help you in the future. So whatever's happening to you right now, this is your training ground. Mm-hmm. Because, when we buy a new car, we drive it off the lot, we start seeing them everywhere. That's called the reticular activating system. The default mode network. So we have to always train that part of our brain, because that primitive brain, it's there to protect us. And sometimes protecting us means it limits us. We have to risk. Yeah. We have to be willing to be wrong. We have to be willing to make mistakes, but we need to do that fast. We can't just keep beating a dead horse, as they say. You gotta try new things. Hey, that worked, that didn't work. Keep going. When it works, see the milestones and keep moving toward it. Yeah,
because flow on a snowboard or a surfboard happens fast. Yeah, so I view that as training. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you
for all your time, and I can't wait to see what's next.
Yeah. Keep expanding. Thank you.